Alright, so today we're going to take a little trip through the galaxy of the 41st millennium. But I want you to forget your usual sightseeing tour. This is a travel guide of a very different sort. We're counting down the most lethal, most horrifying worlds in the entire Warhammer 40,000 universe, and exploring the absolute worst ways to meet your end in a reality that's, well, famously grimdark.
Okay, let's just dive right into it with this quote because it perfectly sets the tone for where we're going. The infrastructure has a higher body count than the gangs. Think about that for a second. In the far future, it's not always the giant alien monster or the invading army you need to worry about. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can possibly do is just try to show up for your shift on time.
So here's our, let's call it a morbid itinerary for today. We're going to hit 5 of the galaxy's worst vacation spots. We're starting with the Hive world, moving on to the Forge world, then the Death world, the Tomb world, and we're going to finish up at our #1 destination, the Daemon world. We're starting with the merely lethal and working our way down into places where reality itself wants you gone. So let's get started.
And kicking off our countdown at number 5, we have the Hive world. Our main example today, Necromunda. Now, this isn't just a city. You got to picture a planet-sized metropolis with buildings stacked miles and miles into the sky. Forget worrying about living in a rough neighborhood. Here, the entire city is actively trying to kill you.
So, what's the most common way you're going to die here? Is it a gang war? Nope, it's your daily commute. Imagine you're just a regular worker heading to another lovely 20-hour shift at the factory. You step into a cargo lift, this ancient, groaning metal box that's probably made millions of trips when it was only rated for 10,000. And then it happens. That ancient frayed cable just snaps. You plummet for what feels like an eternity, crashing through rusty catwalks and forgotten pipes. Your fall finally ends when you splash down into the sump. That's the very bottom of the hive, a literal lake of industrial waste and biological filth. The sludge is so toxic it starts to liquefy your skin while you're still conscious, slowly sinking as the city miles above you has already completely forgotten you ever existed.
Oh, and let's say you somehow manage to survive that commute. Don't you dare get comfortable. The Hive has literally countless other ways to get you. You could get jumped by a gang that just happens to like the look of your boots. You could be dragged into the shadows by some radiation-twisted mutant. Or, hey, maybe the guy in the apartment next to you is an uncontrolled psyker and he just detonates, vaporizing the entire hab block. And that's not even getting into the secret alien cults trying to infect you, or the religious fanatics who might just decide to burn you alive because you looked at them funny.
All right, moving on to number 4. Our next stop is the famous red planet itself, Mars, the heart of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, on a Forge world like this, technology isn't just a tool, you know? It's a full-blown religion. And if you're a worker here, you're not an employee. You are a spare part.
Workplace accidents are everywhere, sure, but the real horror starts when you make one simple mistake. Maybe you forget to say one of the 100 required prayers to a machine spirit. Maybe you touch the wrong control panel. Well, you're not going to get fired, and you're not going to be executed. Now, no, that would be a waste of perfectly good biological resources. Instead, you get flagged for repurposing. You wake up strapped to a surgical table as tech priests catalog which of your parts are still useful. They'll saw off your arm and replace it with a welding tool. They'll scoop out your eyes and plug in some optic cameras. And then comes the final step, a lobotomy that erases everything that is you, leaving behind nothing but a mindless flesh-and-blood robot ready to serve the very factory that just consumed your soul.
But hey, let's say you're a model employee. You avoid becoming a servitor. Well, you're not exactly safe. Mars has plenty of other ways to end you. You could just suffocate in the thin Martian air when your ancient rusted-out environment suit finally gives up. Or maybe you'll get torn to shreds by one of the feral war machines that roam the red deserts. You could even be sealed alive inside a vault for some minor heresy. And sometimes, ancient silent alien robots just phase up from under the ground and atomize you where you stand. So, lots of options.
Okay, for our number 3 spot, we're taking a break from all the smog and rusty machinery, and we're heading for a more natural kind of hell. Welcome to Catachan. It's what the Imperium calls a death world, and believe me, that name is not an exaggeration. Here, everything, from the plants in the ground to the very air you breathe, is actively trying to kill you. So, the locals, or what's left of them, they give you a few simple rules. Don't touch the plants, don't drink the water, and whatever you do, never follow a pretty sound, because pretty sounds are always bait. But, you're tired, it's been a long day, you get a little complacent. You hear this soft, almost musical chirping just a few feet off the trail, and you think, what could it hurt? I'll just take a quick peek. And that's when it hits you. A Catachan devil, this massive, scorpion-like nightmare with a mouthful of tentacles. You panic and start shooting, but the rounds just bounce right off its armored hide. It pins you to the ground, and the last thing you feel is the pressure crushing the breath and then the life right out of you. One little mistake, and the jungle always collects.
And believe it or not, the Catachan devil is kind of like the welcome wagon. So what else is waiting for you in this tropical paradise? Well, how about airborne microbes that turn your internal organs into soup? Or carnivorous brain leaves that latch onto your spine and puppet your dead body around like a marionette? There are swarms of blood wasps that can strip you to a skeleton in under a minute. There are great barking toads that literally explode, creating kilometer-wide clouds of poison gas. Or, and this is my personal favorite, there are parasitic veinworms that burrow inside you just to hatch their larvae, which then eat you from the inside out. Yeah, on Catachan, you are not at the top of the food chain. You're just part of it.
Coming in hot at number 2, we've got Damnos. And this one's a little tricky, because at first glance, it almost seems peaceful. It's a quiet colony world, families farming, trying to build a new life for themselves. But this is what the Imperium calls a tomb world. And the real danger isn't on the surface. Nope. The real danger has been sleeping right underneath their feet for 60 million years.
So, you're just going about your day, maybe tending your crops, when suddenly the ground splits open, spilling this eerie green light everywhere. Huge black metal pylons begin rising out of the earth, and then, standing right in front of you, is a Necron, an ancient skeletal machine being. It just stands there. You raise your weapon and fire, but the shots just spark harmlessly off its living metal body. It doesn't even flinch. It just silently raises its own weapon, and this green beam of energy shoots out. It doesn't burn you. It doesn't explode. It unravels you, layer by layer. First your skin, then your muscles, then your blood. All of it turned into glittering dust in seconds. And your brain stays conscious just long enough to process how quiet, how clinical your own complete erasure is. And here's the truly terrifying part. When the Necrons wake up, death becomes a total free-for-all. It can come from literally anywhere. If their Gauss weapons somehow miss you, well, maybe you'll just get stunned and have your mind downloaded into a little beetle-like repair drone, fully aware but trapped forever. Or, when the Imperial Navy finally shows up to help, they might just decide to virus bomb the whole planet from orbit, melting you into a puddle of goo. You could even get crushed by a drop pod belonging to your so-called saviors. Yeah, when a tomb world wakes up, everybody loses.
And so, we've arrived. Our final destination, the #1 most horrific, awful place in the entire 41st millennium, Medrengard. This is a daemon world. It's home to the traitor Iron Warriors Legion, and it's located inside the Eye of Terror, which is a giant tear in reality where the nightmare dimension of the warp bleeds into our own. Here, the laws of physics are more like suggestions, and a quick, simple death, that is a mercy you will absolutely not be granted.
So what could possibly be worse than death? Well, as a slave here, you might get worked to death building fortifications. You might get vaporized by falling artillery. You might go completely insane from the constant, impossible whispers of the warp. But honestly, those are the lucky outcomes. On Medrengard, the Iron Warriors have perfected something far, far worse than simply dying.
They call it the Daemon Collaba. It's how they create new Chaos Space Marines. It starts with captured women who are taken to these breeding chambers. They are force-fed and injected with a paste made from the ground-up remains of dead Marines. Then, a young boy is surgically implanted inside her. Chaos sorcery then accelerates the boy's growth, mutating him into a full-sized 8-foot-tall Space Marine, all while he's still inside the living host. When it's fully formed, there's no way out. It has to claw its way free, a process that brutally kills the woman. And if, by some impossible miracle, she survives, they just sew her up and use her again.
And what about the beings created from this nightmare? The Marines that emerge are born skinless, screaming, and barely sane. They are completely broken from the moment of their creation. And the truly sick part? Most are considered failures. They're just discarded, thrown into pits to die. It's a process of such ultimate horror that's as wasteful as it is just unbelievably cruel.
And that is our tour. So, I'll leave you with one final, impossible question from this universe. If someone put a gun to your head and you had to choose, which one of these worlds, which of these fates would you pick? And why? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us.